And now, the survival show that once survived a torture session that included an episode of 90 Day Fiancé. In this episode, former federal agent Gary Collins drops by to update us on his latest shenanigans. We discuss what the off-grid life really looks like and get an update on his Simple Life project. Howdy and welcome to In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. This is episode number 280. I'm your host, Aaron, and you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. If you're new here, today's guest is a former federal agent and the author of many nonfiction books. Gary has covered topics from health to the RV life, building an off-grid home, and there are many other things in the work, all falling under his newer brand, The Simple Life. Gary, welcome back in the rabbit hole, bro.
Glad to be back here.
So we left off in episode 254 with a mini update of what's going on with your off-grid project. But that was back in April of 2018. Obviously, everybody's slept since then. So where are you now?
Wrapping up. It's pretty much all done. Don't get me wrong. It's never done.
Right.
There's going to be a lot more projects, but the bulk of the project is done. So next year, primarily, I just got to do the deck. I've been meaning to put the wind turbine in for 2 years, and I just run out of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I bulked up the solar system, so I have plenty of power. So it's one of those, I probably don't need the wind turbine, but I want to do it anyway because I want to see how it works. You know, you never know. This is probably will not be my last off-grid property. So this whole thing's a little bit of an experiment, and but yeah, things are going well. Focusing, like we've talked about, on my career as a writer, trying to get all that done in 2019. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot.
Speaking of the thing with the writer, you just got hooked up with Mother Earth News. What's going on with? Tell us about that project real quick.
Well, yeah, through my Going Off the Grid book, which has done so well unexpectedly. It's funny how this all evolved because it's so organic. You know, the Going Off the Grid book was never meant to be written. It was by doing an interview where people I told what I was doing, and I said, "Oh, I'm building a house off the grid." And what? Huh? What's this? This guy's a health guy. What the heck's this about? And it's something that I'd been planning, for about 10 years, and just did it. And so that book came out, put it together, documented everything, the procedure, everything, how I did it. And that book's just taken off. It just took off and got a distribution deal shortly after it was out. Then Mother Earth News has been selling it for quite a while, and I didn't even know. Yeah. And they liked it. So the higher ups in Mother Earth News, everyone seemed to really like the book. So that went to getting to know each other, possible speaking. So next year in 2019, I'll be publishing a book with Mother Earth News. It's in process right now, and I'll be speaking at all their fairs. I'll be sharing that with my group, my community on the newsletter group and my blog. I'll give exact dates. The first one will be in Belton, Texas. So I'll be promoting that and getting that out there so you guys can come see me be a book signing, the whole bit. There could be workshops. I mean, it's nuts. The Living Off the Grid, the follow-up to that is my book. Again, that's my self-published book. That's coming out in January. So this is more of a workbook and how-to. The Mother Earth News, it's a pretty cool piece that I put together with them. It's basically, I give you all the information in the other two books, but this workbook takes you from basically the A to Z flow. So I walk you through the stages and how to plan it, how to budget, and it's a step-by-step. So at the very end, you have your plan completely organized in this workbook with the information I've given you. And not only that, but it gives you a budget, gives you a working budget that in pieces. So it's not just at the end, you go, okay, I need, $200,000 to do this or whatever. It's blocked out in each section of what to expect, how much it's probably going to cost, depending, and giving you alternatives, like depending what you're going to do. At the end, you can tally everything up, put all your lists together. And I'm really proud of it because I think if you're really interested in this lifestyle, with these 3 books, I mean, it makes it straightforward. It's not easy. This
Mhm.
life is not easy. I never want to give that perception that, you just go and buy 3 books and, throw up a house piece of cake.
Mm.
As in anything in life that you acquire more freedom and live a life you want, there's work involved. You guys
Yeah.
get your knuckles scraped up and, get your pride hurt here and there. And, how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stupid stuff.
So let's back up a little bit for people who are new to the show or who it's obviously it's been a while since the last time we started talking about this, because we've done a few episodes on this to kind of follow along your journey.
Uh-huh.
What was the original genesis? Like, why do this? Was it were you worried about the polar bears, or why did Gary go off grid? Give us the big pitch here.
It's a little different than what most people would think. And I've answered these questions throughout numerous emails because everyone thought I was prepping for the end of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's truly where a lot of the emails came from. And I went, no, you actually have it all wrong. This is part prepping. Don't get me wrong. You should always be prepared for things that happen in life. I mean, I'm from California. I'm in California right now. The town above where my mom lived, just last year, they just moved down by where I grew up, where we all grew up, we lived. That town is the town that got completely burned down, is the town up from the town my mom was living in last year.
Huh.
And that was the town she lived in, was also Oroville, was the Oroville Dam, was the dam that collapsed. So part of it's that, being prepared for things like that, being away and being in a safer place. And the other part was purely freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted more freedom. That's my whole life goal, is to be happy and free. It sounds really simplistic, but everything I do in life is for that. And then the products and the company I run is to teach people the things that I'm trying to do or have done.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all this comes from. I mean, it's not some elaborate, complicated plan. It boils down to freedom and happiness.
Well, I personally like, okay, cool, polar bears and all, but freedom and happiness, I think particularly this audience can get on board with that. So let's start getting into it a little deeper. You had some experience with home construction in the past. What was...
Yeah.
And you brought up numbers and this new workbook. So what was the delta between building a conventional home and doing this? Like how much more expensive was it to go off grid like this than it would be, say, to build a conventional home of similar square footage?
Well, there's a lot of factors. Oh, and we should say I'm in my travel trailer. I spend half my year in my travel trailer, and I've written most of my books in this travel trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I run a complete remote business, and that was part of it too, was living a life of freedom, of being able to be a nomad kind of and run around, do the things I want. But the bridge between, because I've done both. I've had 3 houses built over my life, and I've owned others. And that's where I started. My side business was actually real estate while I was in the government.
Mm.
It was my side business. I started roughly, how old am I? Gotta remember.
You're an old
close
man.
Close to 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. That's where it all started. So I've owned several properties. I've had rentals. I still own land to this day. I've owned and flipped land here and there. So I wasn't a rookie. I mean, I had the basics of understanding real estate and construction. Was I an expert? No. And that's why I write these books, is there's a lot of pitfalls that people don't understand in home construction. If you're a rookie, man, there's a good chance you can get taken. The construction industry can be a little ruthless.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. But I would say it depends how you're going to go about it. Are you going to do most of the building yourself? Or are you looking for a turnkey solution of having someone come in and build it for you? If you're going to have some company or a general contractor come in and build it for you, it's going to be more expensive than a traditionally built house because there's so many other factors involved. A, you're probably going to be remote. B, they're going to be unfamiliar with that type of construction. I've never met a person with a construction company that is an expert in off-grid remote building. They dabble in it, but they're not experts. I mean, they don't build 10 houses off the grid a year. They may be building one every couple years and it's partially off grid. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's gets a little complicated. If you're going to do it that way and have a traditional house built with all the bells and whistles, I would say you're probably looking at, gosh, probably almost double the cost of a normal home
Oh, wow.
in a track housing if you were just to have it built. But
Mm.
that track, the difference is that track home is not constructed as well as the off the grid house, because off the grid house is going to have, different, you're going to have solar, wind, hydro, depending what you use, thicker walls, triple the insulation value probably of a standard home,
Mhm.
double to triple. The construction is going to be much different and should be better. So for most people, though, if you're going to do it yourself and you're going to be heavily involved, it should be cheaper than a standard house,
Mhm.
depending, or right around the same. And I think, and it depends what you want to do. Like I built a normal house. I built a traditional house that's off the grid per se with different materials. But if you were to just go and build a stick house, stick frame, 2x4, which you probably wouldn't be able to do off grid, I wouldn't recommend using 2x4 construction because of insulation purposes. You could do it for fairly cheap. I mean, you could build a house, fully functioning small house for 50 grand,
Hmm.
but that depends. How much does your well cost?
Yeah.
Do you have a pressure septic system as opposed to a gravity fed septic system? Are you going to use a composting toilet? That's what I mean. There's so many moving pieces to that. And that's why I wrote these books. I try and explain all of it, of all the different facets of what you're going to have to deal with and plan for. It depends on your comfort level. For me, I run a business. I can't live in a small, poorly insulated, you know, bulked up shed pooping in a bucket. I can't do that.
Yeah.
There's nothing against that. I know people who live that lifestyle. They're very happy with it. It's very simple. They like that. That's fine. But I think for most people, that is not what they're looking for.
Right.
I think they're looking for a bridge, like you said, a bridge in between modern society as opposed to living remotely in maybe a more traditional or removed, say 100 years ago, how we lived.
Yeah.
Something kind of in the middle of those two.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think going back to what you were saying as far as giving people and people looking for the maximum amount of freedom and
Yeah.
independence from the grid and everything else, while still living a somewhat contemporary lifestyle and having contemporary conveniences.
Well, and if you were to walk into my house and you were to live there for a week and you didn't mess with any of the solar or any of that, solar, all these alternative energy systems do have maintenance. I mean, you have to
Okay.
run them. You are your own utility company.
Mhm.
But if you just walked and stayed for a week, you'd have no idea you were in an off the grid house. None. I have washer dryer, 2 full bathrooms, a tankless water heater that generates hot water nonstop. The
Hmm.
things I do not have are central heat and cooling, which you can have in an off the grid house. It's just your alternative power system has to be much larger to be able to push those systems. Um, I'm in a place where, I'm only there 7 months out of the year. I have a portable air conditioner that I put in this year and put in some extra panels to be able to power it.
Mm.
That works fine. It's only hot like 10 days, 14 days out of the year when I'm up there,
Okay.
where, it's hitting triple digits and it's real brief. That's it.
Right. You didn't build this in like South Texas or anything. So
No.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what I talk about. Difference. If you're going to be in South Texas, you're probably not going to be able to use the systems I use. You're probably going to have a traditional heating cooling system,
Mm-hmm.
especially the cooling side, or you're
Yeah.
going to cook.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Or you build a berm house, you build it into a berm, you surround it with dirt and you have southern exposed windows. There's multiple ways to do it. That's what I mean. It's off the grid home isn't one specific. There's multiple types of construction for different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, unless you're building an entire community or neighborhood, we'll say,
Yeah.
to be off the grid, like you're not going to get that track house. They build 10 houses a day, kind of. That would be a lot of houses, but they build a bunch of houses a day in some development kind of stuff. Like this is a custom. This really is doing these is a custom built home.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's definitely, that's what you need to realize too is, yeah, the cost might be more, but you're building a custom house. I
Hmm.
mean, this is not your typical construction fare of today. Most houses today are pretty poorly constructed, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. I mean, they look nice on the outside, but construction wise, they're usually not all that great.
Yeah.
You're going to be building a superior house to the standard run of the mill house in a residential neighborhood today, and quite far superior when you look at the materials, how it's constructed. If you do it to code, I'm a big fan. All my stuff's done to code. It's been inspected by the county.
Mm.
I'll be able to get a line of credit on it if I want to. I own it outright. That's another thing, realizing there's no loans. You have to pay for this with cash.
Hmm.
So even if you had the money, it would still take longer.
Yeah.
Building these houses takes longer than a standard house. And all the shows I see, it's funny kind of seeing these people jump in. They're all, we're going to build our house off the grid. Hey, we're on TV. This is going to be great. Not one of them has been on time. They have been way, way over time because they don't understand that custom homes take longer.
Hmm.
And then you throw in weather, you throw in remoteness, you throw in contractors not being familiar with it. Then once you get off schedule, now you got to reschedule these guys. They may not be available. So my house took 5 years, and it was because I'd have to build,
Hmm.
spend my money, stop, save, build, stop, save. It's the system. And on average, it takes about 3 to 5 years for most people to be able to build their house off the grid, unless you have a big chunk of money to come in with. And even then, I would tell you it's probably going to take you a year.
Hmm.
Unless you have someone who knows what they're doing, or you're in the construction field and you have a lot of expertise in this, it's going to take you about a year.
Mm. Well, you brought up something really interesting as far as being able to get a line of credit on the house or something like that. Or I have heard, like, with a lot of unconventional homes, we'll use a big basket term, uh, trying to, if you ever got into a situation where you wanted to sell it later, like, that's something that a lot of people don't consider because they're like, oh, I'm going to live in this
Yeah.
forever. And it's like, well, that's not, like, maybe, but not likely. With doing an off-grid home, how much thought did you, because you're a smart guy and you actually think ahead, how much thought did you have to put in to say, hey, I need this house to be able to get comps later and be something that I could sell if I needed to, or just really wanted to?
Well, and you bring up some good points, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily smart. I made some really dumb errors. But you also have to realize that it's going to be hard to get comps because your property is very unique
Mhm.
to everything around you, unless everyone around you is living off grid too. So to get comps is going to be rather difficult.
Mhm.
But I always look at a property, and I learned this in real estate, is no matter what the property is, you can plan to die in it, well, not early, but live your whole
Hope
life.
not,
And
yeah.
hey, this is the house I plan to die in. This is my dream home, which doesn't happen very often. But hey, I, that's my plan is always, okay, I need to be able to sell this thing at some point, right?
Mhm.
I may die in this house. I may take my last breath at, 101 years old if everything works great or whatever. But if I don't, and I need to get rid of this, and I can't access this property because I'm old and I can't get up here anymore and I can't maintain it, I have to be able to sell it. So I look at every property I've ever owned with an exit strategy. How would this? So I didn't build it. That's another. I actually went with some friends to look at a house recently, and it was outskirts. It's a grid tied home, but the lady had customized it. She had been in it 20 years, and it was a track home, but she basically changed it to her preference.
Hmm.
It was a disaster and a money pit, but my friends couldn't see it because they weren't experts. They didn't have a construction background. I went, you're going to pay for this, and you're going to be upside down by the time you do all the improvements to be able to sell this thing. You will have to cut her asking price by 100 grand in order to make this break even. And I guarantee you throw her that offer and they're going to go, why are you being such a jerk? I mean,
Mhm.
you're just going to make her mad. I always look at with an exit strategy. I didn't heavily personalize this house. Would I love to have all the Gary things in it? Sure. But are they necessary too? Do I really need those things? I need a functioning house that looks good, is resellable, built properly, and that I enjoy. That's all I want. So I always use standard colors. I use standard, I use very neutral things. I don't super customize my houses in a sense to my if you have quirky wants. Like I've walked into houses that are painted pink. All the walls are pink, one's purple, the
Mm-hmm.
sink is gold, and you just go, that's going to make this house really difficult to sell. Can you fix those things? Are they easy to change out? Yeah, some of them. But if you put on an awkward addition like this lady did,
Mm.
the addition was junk. It took the value away from the house, and it wasn't necessary. And that's what I mean. You have to be careful with how you take this. I mean, if you put in composting toilets instead of a standard septic system, you've basically just nicked 99% plus of the general public. You basically just eliminated a huge group that would buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think of those things, that's how I look at it. And I think I could sell my house fairly quickly
Mm-hmm.
if I had to.
Yeah, because I've actually seen it. I mean, it's a good looking house, and there's nothing. I mean, it looks like a fairly modern home with a crazy cool view. And it's off grid, but like from the pictures you've shown me, and anytime we've been talking, it's like there's nothing about it that feels junky or weird or anything where you're like, I don't know. Can you explain that to me? And I think that's one of the biggest problems, like with a composting toilet. If you have to explain something in a home,
Yeah.
like right there, people are like, tuned out. Nope, sorry. Let me go back to Facebook. Was there anything? And so I think that kind of leads us here. Was there anything about this now that you're, for all intents and purposes, done, other than tinkering, really? Was there anything that was actually easier about this than you expected it to be?
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
no. No, it's like I said, it's custom construction. Standard construction is a lot of corners are cut.
Mm-hmm.
Your standard residential home is affordable and cheaper for a reason. They cut corners on construction. That's what they do. They maximize their profit. I've always said this: a contractor will save $5 to cost you $1,000 down the road,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a fact of life. The industry is pretty shady.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all builders are bad. I know who the good ones are. Even the big companies. I know I can look at a house and go, I know what company builds that house
Mm-hmm.
just by the way it's built. Everything's going to be more difficult too, because more than likely you're going to have to get your hands dirty. I had to buy about $2,000, $2,500 worth of tools. I had the standard tools to do basic handyman stuff. I did not have tools to build a house.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to and hey, I'm a guy. That was no big deal.
Right.
I love tools.
Right.
So it wasn't a big deal, but they would be unnecessary in most parts of my life other than building a house. I would not really need these tools. Yeah, it's going to be more difficult. Just painting the house was way more difficult than any house I've ever painted.
Okay, that's interesting. How come? Because that's so random.
Well, it's high.
Okay.
The house is the tip of the roof is close to 30 feet.
Hmm.
So it's high. I don't have a lift. You can't get a lift up there, really. It would have been a nightmare to get a lift up there. The contractor had one, the first guy, and he brought his up, and it almost didn't make it. And once he was fired, it's in the book. I had to go up on ladders. So I was using ladders, and I hand painted that entire part of that house. And people go, why don't you spray it? I planned to. I bought a sprayer. I was going to spray the outside. Well, the wind blows inconsistently. I don't know which day it's going to blow. I don't know what time of the day it's going to blow. There's been days when I've been painting. I have to actually pack everything up and stop. And that's it for the day. And next day I come out and there's dirt stuck to the side. So it's stuff like that. Like, you don't anticipate that would be that difficult. Well, it took me forever to paint the outside of that house, and I may have to repaint the stupid thing again.
So did anything turn out better than you expected it to?
The interior, the exterior, exterior of houses are pretty standard. I use, lap siding. It's common, it's in a lot of houses. So the outside looked pretty cool. It came out neat. I did a little different with colors, but it's all hardy. So my house is fireproof, at least fire resistant, because there's very little wood exposed. None of the eaves have wood in them. It's all concrete board. It's metal roof. I did that for a reason. I live in the woods. I am my fire department. If fire gets close, if that thing was made out of wood, it would burn to the ground. So I had to think of those things ahead of time. And being that I grew up in California and almost had one of my houses burned down about 10 years ago, that I've learned some valuable lessons on that. But the inside, once I realized that I was going to have to take this project completely over, because I was running business, I was trying to gap contractors with my work and do a little here, there. And it was more for time. I just didn't have the time to do everything myself. Well, once all this fell out the door and I realized I was having a hard time getting contractors who had the talents I needed, I was going back behind them and fixing a lot of stuff. I just said, screw it. I know how to do this stuff. I'll just do it. It'll take a little longer. So once I made that decision, though, I customized it, not to my preferences, but made it step the customization of the inside of the house up one notch.
Okay.
Or two notches. So it's when you walk in, you go, oh, wow, that's nice. So I upped certain things to give it more appeal, give it more, it will easier to sell. That was the point. But when you do that, basically you'll spend maybe 10% more on materials, but you could actually increase the value 25 to 50%. So that's why. So all my showers are custom tile. Did the pan around the upstairs shower is done with a pretty high end, warranted not to leak for 25 years instead of using green board. It should never leak ever. So stuff like that. I mean, I did some, built my countertops myself. They were interesting. I did it with natural stone, decorative tiles. And it was a risk because that was one of the customizations that could bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
That it's different. It could be so different. Someone could walk in and go, ooh, those countertops. I don't know about that. But I think they came out great. Everyone who looked at it said, those countertops are actually really cool.
Yeah, when you showed them to me, I was like, wow, I don't like tile-based countertops because I don't like the way they feel. I don't like the way things slide over. But I looked at it, I was like, that's actually really cool.
Well, and it took me a while to figure it out because what happened, I got some bids to get solid surface. And I've installed solid surface, but hauling them up, if it's a rough road, if I break them, there's the money I saved doing it myself, breaking them, getting them up there. And that's the thing with the industry, everything turning around now, the economy, we're right past the boom. Things are more expensive now, materials and getting people to do jobs for you on the manual labor side or, specialty side, far as, a trade, skilled trade, that the bid I got 2 bids. They were ridiculous. I mean, I went, you gotta be kidding me. I've done this in other houses. It was like half this, And so I said, screw it. I'll just do it myself. I'll figure it out. And this was for showers, everything. I was like solid surface. It's just a much easier thing to maintain. And I did it myself. It was probably, I think in the end, I want to say it cost me about 25 to 30% to do it myself of what it would have cost from those bids.
Yeah.
And if you saw them, the showers are way nicer than anything I would have gotten. It's custom. It's high end.
Were there any conveniences or appliances or anything like that that you had to give up to fit the power requirements?
Well, not really. I didn't put a dishwasher in because I've been washing dishes by hand for so long. I just don't care anymore. I don't know. And dishwashers are a pain in the butt. Half the time they don't clean the dishes, then they spring a leak, it's not necessary. I really don't need it. But I don't have a garbage disposal. I've been washing dishes by hand for so long. I'm not a fan of garbage disposals. They're messy. They're noisy. They break, stuff gets stuck in there and you're off grid. I have to be nice to my septic system. Central air and heat, definitely had to give that up. But most part, no. I mean, like I said, it's a normal house. I have the same stove I had in my last house. I bought the newer version of that. It's a gas stove. I have a normal refrigerator. It's a smaller refrigerator, more energy efficient, but it's a full size refrigerator, washer dryer. Yeah, like I said, normal toilets, lighting, fans, TVs, normal TVs. Everything's pretty much the same. I mean,
What if you could go back in time and slip Gary a note? What would be the big epiphany about this whole project that you would want? Like, if you could just one thing tell yourself from the past, what would it be?
first thing I do is slap myself upside the head. Oh God. Go, you dummy. What, because I'm a, you know me, I'm a type A.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wired pretty tight, and no one can ever be harder on me than me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's a tough one. It would probably be, I should have researched the material I used a little bit better.
Mm.
Not that it's a bad material. I just used a material I knew nothing about. I relied on the contractor to have knowledge in it. And the guy lied to me. The guy had used it one other time right before my house, which I found out he got fired from and did some of the construction wrong. And I went, oh, I wish I would have learned a little bit more so I could have had a finer eye on what they were doing. Another big one would, and I talk about this, is realizing that you're still around people, right?
Mm.
When you go off the grid, and it was a little different. When I bought, I didn't have anyone around me. No one was around me. That was part of the point of me buying the property. Well, I come back, and start building, and next thing in 2 years, I'm surrounded. All those lots around me are bought.
Mm.
I mean, I can't see anyone. They're big lots. They're 20-acre lots. And they're down, I can't see anyone. But prior to that, I probably had a mile where there was no one around me for a mile, circle mile around me. So 2 miles, if you do the math on it, I literally had no one around me. And within 2 years, boom, I've got neighbors. I got people walking through my property, stuff like that. Humans are, humans. We're there's bad ones everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that assumption I took too is that I grew up in a small town, smaller than the town I'm in. And, but I grew up with those people. I was in a new area, didn't know a lot of people. So, of course, people are going to be checking you out, testing you out to see what they can get away with. And in today, with the meth problem, which is huge anywhere. I mean, you can go into a major city, it's a problem there. I mean, it's an epidemic. It's everywhere. But once you get more remotely, it's even a bigger problem. Meth heads like to hang out in the sticks. They like to cook up their meth in their bathtub, and, kids running around in dirty diapers. It's crazy. It's crazy land. But I think I would have taken security a little more serious before. I probably would have put my security measures in first. Before I broke ground, before I did anything, I would have had all my gates in, my fencing in, my cameras in. I would have done that first.
That's a good way. I think that's something that there's a few people listening to the show that I'm sure would think that way, but most people would not think to do that first.
Well, the thing is, it was raw land. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
In the book I talk about, we dragged the drilling rig up with a bulldozer to put my well in. The next day, that night, someone came in and ripped stuff off the drilling rig because I didn't have any fences in. It's just a piece of land in the middle of nowhere, but there was people around, and obviously they saw because I'm at the top of a mountain. I just didn't think, and today just humans suck. People do shitty things to each other, and there's thieves everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something, and we've talked about this in the past, I think, but that is something that a lot of people miss, is that, like, just because you're going to go rural or just because you're going to go off the grid doesn't mean your security situation is necessarily going to be any better than where you are and what you're doing now.
Well, if anything, you're remote and people know where you're at. You may not think so, but people around the area, it's a small area. People are talking. Hey, so-and-so from somewhere just bought that property. I heard they're getting to build a house, so instantly it runs around, and, Dirtbag Joe has heard, and, he He wants to get, he wants to buy a new dirt bike and get some more pseudoephedrine to cook some meth, whatever. And, it's just, I hate to paint that picture, but I was in law enforcement. So that kick, I felt kind of stupid, but I'd put trust in humanity again. I said, I'm here. I'm in a small town and nothing here. No one's going to mess with anything.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Famous
got taught a lesson, but I fixed the problem right away. I instantly put up fencing, barbed wire, cameras, and I made it clear, went into town and said, hey, not a good idea. One time, fine. Second time, probably not going to go so well for you. That's the thing is, they're testing you.
Yeah.
And they're going to test you. And another thing I talk about in the new book is remotely what will happen is these people who are, say, not so moral is the best way to put it, but criminals, basically low-level dirtbag criminals. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're shitheads. They're looking for an easy take. And they'll cruise around properties when they think no one's around. They're on their ATV, usually because motorcycles make too much noise. They know an ATV is quieter, and they can load it. They can get stuff on there if they want to take it. They'll roll around the dirt roads around your property to see if anyone's going to come out and say anything to them. If not, they know to come back to that place to go get something. So anytime I see someone on my roads who should not be there, I let them know, don't come back. I'll take a picture of their ATV and them or their license plate. And I'll say, I'm just telling you, you're not welcome here. You're not supposed to be here. This is a private road. This is private property. And they'll give you there's the typical canned answer Dirtbag Joe will give you. And usually his meth head girlfriend on the back. It's weird how I hate to do this, stereotype it, but it's funny. Every time I run into them, it's almost the exact same thing. They always give the same story. Oh, we're out exploring, we love the outdoors and, maybe we're going to do some hunting. It's always the same BS story every single time. Don't be nice to them. Don't be stern. Don't be a total jerk. But I'm stern. I'll know. Turn around. You need to leave right now. And I just sit in my truck and I wait. And then I'll follow them out. I'll give them a little time and then I'll come in behind them. And then I let my neighbors know, hey, someone was around here. Here's what they were driving. It sucks to have to be that way. But, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You need to make it clear you're not to be here again, period. Otherwise, they will try and come back.
Yeah. So you've got your speaking tour coming up and all that stuff. You've got a crazy 2019 coming up. What is somebody listens to this and they're like, Gary's my brand of wacky. How do they connect with you? How do they find out?
Or I hate that guy.
I hate that guy. And I need to type words on the internet about him.
I need to troll him and I need to find his social media and tell him he's a jerk and how dare him say those evil things and he doesn't understand anything. And you know what? Good luck. I don't participate in social media.
Yeah.
Have fun. Because of that. Not that I got a lot, but I just felt that we'll talk about that. That's a chapter in the next book.
Yeah.
Social media and why I do not use it. And actually it'll be a blog post coming up because I did this, about 6 months ago, I basically started turning it off and people are, holy cow, you're going to run a company without social media. And I go, yeah, yes, I am. And not only that, I'm going to be happier for it. And the people who follow me are going to be my people. I'm going to be their taste. It's a community. That got sidetracked, but it's a topic.
So website address, where do people go?
Address.
To get the only place they can now go to get Gary.
Hold on. Let me step down off the soapbox real quick. Jesus Christ. But my website, new website, I changed website and everything about in April-ish of this year. It's now called thesimplelifenow.com. All my books are on there, digital, hard copy. I sell them there. They're all on Amazon, Kobo. They're all over. My books are distributed worldwide. Well, not digitally because I'm exclusive with Amazon right now. That may change down the road, but that's just the easiest way for me to do it. And then for Mother News, I'll get the schedule out. I have the rough schedule, but I don't believe, last time I checked, they have not posted it. But I'll be speaking at all 6 events nationwide.
Very
There,
cool.
yeah, there may be workshops. We're in negotiations with that right now if we're possibly going to do day or half day workshops. So if you go and I'd sign up for the newsletter, get the updates just to see on my site. If you want to sign up for Mother Earth News too, I highly recommend that as well. Great place. I've been a fan of theirs for decades. There'll be dates. I'll update everyone too in the newsletter. I'll let them know where it's going to be at. I'll let them know, hey, there's a workshop. If you're interested, post the link so you can sign up for it. They will not be free, the workshops, because they will be pretty involved. And there's more to come. I mean, I've got 3 books coming out this year, at least. So I'm working on the last one right now. The Simple Life book series is the new book series. I have the Going Off the Grid stuff. And then the Simple Life is going to run you through basically my lifestyle, how I live it, and how you can basically live the life you want without all the noise and clutter. Yeah. Hey, I'm not a genius by any stretch. I tell people I'm not a life clairvoyant by any, but I think I've learned some valuable lessons and made a ton of mistakes that I can teach people not to make, and kind of pursue the happiness that they're looking for on their journey. Not my journey. Yeah. You don't want to copy my journey. It's your journey. But I'll give you the tools to at least get you started and get you out there and understand what this life entails. Because I didn't realize, I just did this on my own. There was no agenda. As we talk about Gary being Gary, out in his own little world, doing his thing, and people decided, hey, I'm interested in that. Oh, okay. I better, maybe I should write some books on that.
Write a book or 2 or 10 or something, Gary. Dude, awesome stuff. Give me the website address one more time.
It is thessimplelifenow.com. If you go just Simple Life, you probably end up at Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton's old website or something. So yeah, just remember thessimplelifenow.com and sign up for my newsletter if you're interested in my stuff. Like I said, I don't use social media. If you want to stay up to date, that's the way you're going to be up to date. And it's a community.
Awesome. Well, Gary, as always, dude, thank you for coming on and sharing with us your knowledge and your experience of what not to do.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, man.
Show notes, links to Gary and his books, and other tasty resources can be found by going to intherabbithole.com/E280. If you're watching this on YouTube, do all that YouTube stuff. Like this video, subscribe, and slap that bell around because bananas are yellow. With that, we wrap up episode number 280 from the Lone Star State. Till next time, stay safe and sound.